Alrighty, so I'm super pumped. So not a ton of new faces, which is great. But for those of you who have never met me before, I'm Lizy Hoeffer. I've been a Valley lender for the last 20 years, top 10 loan officer in the country. The last couple of years, I've really tried to evolve my business from just being tactical, metric driven to really just kind of full life encompassing. I find that when we don't have a very holistic view of our lives, they become really one or two dimensional at best. And we find ourselves exhausted, burnt out, and we don't really achieve the big goals that we set out to do. So how many of you in the room have ever set a business plan before? Okay. Of the people who've set a business plan before, how many times have you actually revisited that plan after executing it? So more than once, raise your hand. Okay, more than twice. More than 3 times. 4 times? Okay. So a business plan has to be revisited all of the time, and I'm talking about weekly at minimum in order to hit and achieve goals. Now what happens is most of the time when we're figuring out a business plan, we forget the challenges that'll come in with our lives, with our family, with other competing goals. And so what we're going to do today is really figure out what we need most in our business, and we're going to set a 12-week plan, right, for how we are going to now live life and run a business, okay? And it's going to go under a certain theme, and we're going to develop a mantra, okay? Does that all sound fair to everyone? Okay, so this is like business meets life. All right, so I want you guys to turn to the page in your booklets that has this little wheel of life, okay? Now, what I want you to do is where you are currently in life, I would like you to rank it 10 being the best, 1 being the worst, on how you feel today, right, with where you're at. Okay, now, there was a lot of confusion about this one thing yesterday, so I just want to show you this how it goes. So you would rank, so I rank my health as 6. I'm going to put a dot there for health. Okay, then I rank my friends and family like an 8, my love a 6, my spirituality a 7, my career, I'm the most frustrated currently. I like to win championships, so right now I'm not quite doing that. So I rank myself a 4. Okay, and when you see how the wheel starts developing, I want you guys to fill this all out, and then I want you to connect the dots, okay? Okay, now go ahead and connect the dots, and if anyone's willing to share, I'd love to hear some ahas about your circles.
Say the left side of my chart's a little wonky.
Okay, and what do you mean by wonky?
I just think that my personal growth and money and career hasn't been growing the way I've wanted it to, which also now I'm seeing my health obviously, which makes sense why my personal growth.
So does it look round? So this is what mine ended up looking like, just so you guys know. So this is what I imagine a cancer cell looks like. Unhealthy. Okay. And these are some of the realizations, right? So one thing I want you guys to look at is sometimes our circles are round, but they're not large. Sometimes they look really imbalanced like this where we can see. Sometimes we will be really it'll look like a triangle or a star, okay? So what I want you guys to do is right now just notate which areas in your life are actually the lowest, okay? So for me, I'm gonna circle money and career. Those are the two things I'm the most unhappy about. Okay? Now you're not gonna do anything else with that. I just want you to pay attention to them because we're gonna set specific goals on those two things in a moment. Okay? Now, on the next page here, what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to really write and be as authentically honest as you possibly can with the pain points in your life, not just from those two specific areas, but from all categories. What's holding you back? What's making you frustrated? Where do you feel any kind of pain or negativity in your overall life? And I want you to list as many things as possible. Okay? And I gave you guys some examples. So like struggling with time management, lack of clear priorities. I feel like I can't, like me personally, I feel frustrated with the stop and go of my schedule. Claudia, we're just listing out all the pain points we have in our current life and business. Okay. Does anyone, can I ask you to share?
Yeah. Which one? Sometimes I feel like I can't plan properly for anything. If I say, oh, I'm going to do this, something always seems to get in the way, and it's really starting to frustrate me. I can start the day with, all right, so I'm going to do this, and this, and at the end of the day, I'm like, I maybe did one. So it's starting to get frustrating.
Yeah, I can imagine so. And so whenever you have feelings like this, we create belief systems underneath that, right? So she's like, it doesn't matter if I put a list, like over and over and over again, it doesn't matter if she puts a list together, she's not going to complete it, which I imagine makes you feel like defeated.
Defeated, yes, highly. And I feel like anytime I can't even volunteer to do anything because I'm like, I probably won't get to it.
So this is a phenomenon that leads to actually learned helplessness, and this is a very, very important thing because when we feel like we're failing over and over and over again, our subconscious bodies are designed to survive. We won't even attempt to do things anymore. Like if this happens, it's a phenomenon that happens actually in children and most seen in animals, but it's seen in us as human beings, right? So like they did a bunch of scientific studies on animals and treats, and so they would put their favorite treat out there and they'd get it, and the animal would go and try to eat it, and then it would get zapped, and then eventually it could be like right next to their nose. They wouldn't even attempt to try to grab it even if there was no buzzer on them because they felt like they just were going to get zapped. And so it's really important that we nail down our pain points and where we feel frustrated, where we have these negative emotions in our business. And I want you guys to then next reflect on how this is impacting you, right? So like I just said, this is making her feel defeated and it's giving that pattern of failure. But like, where does this show up in all areas of your life, right? So I imagine like that, because I had this very similar feeling, like it didn't matter what I did, it was never going to be enough, or I wasn't going to be able to make anyone happy, or I always felt like I was giving it my all, but somehow I was dropping the ball in some other areas, right? So this was my belief system, and so I wrote down all the areas in my life where I felt that this showed up. Okay, so go ahead and what does this mean to you, right? So I wanted to use that as an example to help you fill this out, but if you could take the next couple of minutes and do that. Okay, so once you've done that, the next thing I want you guys to do is think of what would be the positive opposite of that, right? So I'm going to use, for example, because it's one that I've actually also lived, is where in my life did I actually have the power to change that, or maybe that story just wasn't an absolute, right? So where, like if you got the one thing done on the list, how were you able to do the one thing, right? And like what things made you successful in that, right? So I would have to look at my calendar and look and say, okay, well, where in my calendar did I actually have space where I could have done this? Should this have been a task that was delegated? Should I have said no to this, right? So where could I say no? Where could I have delegated, right? Where was there some wasted time, right? Because I'm looking for opportunities to challenge the belief that I don't have enough time, okay? And that's actually the first step in taking back your power whenever we have these negative belief systems about our performance and about what's possible for us. You will never rise or ever accomplish things beyond your belief system. So if your belief system is that you cannot or you're gonna fail, you actually set yourself up for that. There's a lot of science behind this, and there's actually a lot of science behind why goals don't work, right? So the second that you announce a goal and you get kudos from another person, you actually get a serotonin reward, and your brain cannot tell the difference between you actually accomplishing it and you actually just getting acknowledged for it. So it's important to understand the destination of where you're going, but also not attach yourself to the goal, right? So it's not like I'm a $100 million producer, right? Because you haven't accomplished that yet. Now it's like, okay, in order to, produce $100 million, these are the things I have to get done, right? And does my schedule allow for me to do these things? Do I have to revisit this goal? Like, how would I get this done with leverage? What can I remove in my life to create space? There's ways in which we can get power, okay? So the next page here has what specific lists of items and things could you do to create a positive opposite version of whatever that limiting belief is. So you have enough time to get everything done. What has to happen? So for me, what actually ended up happening, because I never want to sacrifice in my time with my kids, is that I had to say no to things that didn't have a high ROI even if I love them and even if I love the person, right? It's like, okay, well, I can move that to friend time, or I can change that up, or I can help like figure out a time limit for when I would allow for this to happen, okay? Because a lot of wasted time is like chit-chatting, you know, going on Instagram, like wasting time with people, you know, so that's where I could grab more time back. And then I had hard and fast rules for time with my kids, so I just put my ringer on silent at a certain time, and then it doesn't come off of like do not disturb until a different time. Right, and so there are sacrifices, just so you know, for making those types of boundaries within my schedule, but it also teaches the right people when you're available, what your priorities are, and you don't end up with less, you just end up with different, right? So I now work with different people who don't need a pre-qualification at 10 p.m. on a Sunday night because they didn't reach out to me prior to that. Like that was something that originally I would have done in the past. But that I know, like, people who see my schedule now, they wouldn't ask that necessarily. Do you know what I mean? So go ahead and write in your positive opposite of your negative situation. So ladies, do you guys want to start in like the pain points part of like what's frustrating you now with your life and business, and then write, you know, some action items for what you could do to solve those problems, is wherever it's at. Is anyone willing to share? Like, Tim, can I call on you to share? Tim, guys, is one of my favorite human beings on earth, just so you guys know.
Thanks for asking. I'm kind of a shy person, but I would be glad to. I need to build an executable business plan, leverage my current personnel and resources, make a workout schedule, invest in growing my nest egg, and calendar my vacations.
Perfect. Okay, so couple things, because these are really, really wonderful action items. When we get to the goals part of it, I want us to be very, very specific about what it would take to, like, let's say, invest in your nest egg, right? So, like, what's a first step in doing that? Is it meeting with a financial planner? Is it creating a budget? Is it creating, like, learning about money strategies, right? What's a first step, okay? So just keep that in mind. Now, along that list of items, Tim, what do you feel like a common theme is?
Planning and structure.
Okay, so when you go into the next box, I want you to write planning and structure.
Okay.
Okay. And what's a single phrase, right, that helps you feel power within that?
Organized.
So a single, like a powerful phrase in that would be like, I'm building my future. Like,
Okay.
I'm creating wealth. We want an empowering statement. So let me give you an example in my personal life. So last year, my biggest pain points were I was overweight, I was depressed, I felt very burnt out with my business, I felt uncreative, all of the things. And I felt resentful of my calendar. Like, these were my things. It's like, I've just been so busy forever, right? And so then my positive opposite was like, hey, I'm gonna live a super healthy lifestyle, so I'm gonna work out all the time. I'm gonna figure out a more balanced schedule, spend more quality time with my kids. I'm gonna go to therapy, which is something I definitely needed to do. I was gonna start going back to church. I wrote down all the things that I could do, like action items. And what I came up with, my theme was, I need to get healthy. And then my phrase was, I'm gonna be happy, healthy, and hot. Because like my idea is, you have to create a statement that allows you to envision what success looks like in your life. Right, and what's funny is the word hot used to make me very intimidated. Like, I used to be like, oh, I'm always the smart girl, I can't be the hot girl, you know. But then I was like, fuck it, I'm 40 now. I decided I want to be hot, I'm gonna be hot. And I was like, what does it take to embody that, to own that, to do that, and start living that? And then, so when I thought of all of those three things, the emotion that it evoked in me was joy, right? And joy embodies like a healthy person, a happy person, a balanced person, right? It gave me a one word to concentrate on that when I go back to my business plan, I could go, okay, does this bring me joy? Does this pass my gut test? Okay? So with that idea in mind, right, this next year, as I did it, originally, I was gonna choose the word adventure. I was like, my word's gonna be adventure. This is what I want. I'm having so much fun. I just need to take it up a notch. And then I did my pain points, and my pain points are now in my career, and now in my money, and it's in my structure, and it's all the things. And so I was like, well, adventure probably is going to make this worse, right? Adventure doesn't sound like the thing I need to choose. Structure needs to sound like the thing I need to choose. But structure for me triggers me based on my past life. Right? So then I was like, okay, well, what's a positive opposite? So how does this happy, healthy person now create wealth and money and business? Okay, and so all of my things are along the side of business now because I've gotten very lopsided in other areas. And so I ended up coming up with the word thrive, right? Because someone who is thriving is also successful making money. And my word of the year, my phrase of the year is, this is when everything works out for me, right? In business, in finance, in love, in exercise, in everything. Like, this is when it all works out. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, I want you guys to revisit this for a second, and I want you guys to see, does this evoke an emotion?
You know, Valentine's Day is like 3 weeks away. You got something planned already?
I don't, but I hope the person I'm seeing does.
For the kiddos.
Oh, for the kiddos, yes. I take the kiddos on a Happy Valentine's Day tea. I love tea. And so we all get dressed up and go on the Friday before Valentine's Day. And we're doing a white elephant type of Valentine's Day exchange since I didn't get the Christmas party this year. Yes. Yes, but I just mentioned that my love life is one of those things that I'm hoping gets elevated this year. So that's why that was top of mind.
Okay.
Middlestone, me and Lauren, you do a double date. It's super fun.
I love Hillstone.
So good.
It has the most random menu on the planet.
I know, but it's so good.
I'm obsessed with that Asian salad.
The Asian salad.
The emerald,
It's called like their Pan Asian.
oh, I don't know if I've had that one. I always go for the emerald.
So good.
Okay, I'll try it.
I'd say I'd try the emerald, but it's like I'm so obsessed with
Yeah, you can't. I have to do that. I literally do the hamburger and the chicken
The
sandwich.
burger is-
Only go with Zeb so that he lets
Yeah.
me have half.
Yeah.
I just trade. Okay. Does anyone have a theme and a word choice that they want to share? Bobby?
Maybe if I made eye contact.
I know, we did make eye contact. You looked like you were open to share.
I put busy and balanced.
Okay. And what do we feel like a one word to embody that?
I think balanced. Yeah.
What about productive? We want words, guys, that like feel powerful, right? So like productive, right, doesn't say burnt out, overwhelmed, right? Productive means everything I do yields a result, right? And so like, you know, balanced and have business, right? You could think of other words, but I want it to be a thing in motion that when you say it, right, you can see yourself living the thing. Okay, because these are definitions that, yes, mean the word, but also mean something to us. Does that make sense? Like thriving to me, like you've seen my definition, hopefully online. I've written what thriving means to me, right? Because I want to be like succeeding at a high level in all areas of my life, basically. Okay, so the word I want it to be something in motion. So yesterday when we did this session, we had a gal who was like, I want to live in the moment, right? So she wanted to, her theme was like right now. And then her word ended up being present, right? Because present means right now. It also means like intense presence. And it also means gift, right? Because when you are living in the present, life feels like a gift. Okay, so think about your word in motion. Madison, can I call on you?
Okay. You want me like the theme?
Yeah, just describe it.
So I struggle a lot with balancing like what I truly value over like with prioritizing what needs to be done. So I came up with the singular phrase love and logic, like doing things that I love but also being smart about how I am doing them. And the word I came up with was delight.
Oh, I love that, because I can feel that, right? Like, delight. So, a couple things, and we didn't do this part, but like, so when you have like two competing value systems, like love and practicality are just like things that we sometimes say, oh, I can't love the practical things. So one of the challenges yesterday that came up was that one of the gals is a stay-at-home mom, also a real estate agent, and getting physical exercise was difficult within the schedule, right? And so she knows that practically she needs to get up, she needs to move, she needs to be physically fit. It impacts her whole life, but how does she do it with the time constraints? And so one of the practical ways that she could do it and love to do it is playing with her kids, right? That's a really great way to get exercise in, right? We don't always feel like, if you have had small kids, you don't always feel like playing with them. But it's a really great thing, like dual things, right? Or like, how do you enjoy doing things, right, that are practical? Or let's say you don't love doing them. Like, I hate cleaning my house. Like, I love a clean house. I also don't love cleaning the house. So part of it is, okay, well, like, I'm gonna make a goal that I won't always be cleaning my house. Right, so when I'm working hard or doing the logical stuff or doing the stuff, I know that the reward is getting a house cleaner. Does that make sense? Okay, so like for me, like I just said, structure has been a trigger for me, right? Because I was a workaholic before. So adventure is something I also have to incorporate into the reward system of my plan, right? Otherwise, I won't be doing the plan. Right, so now I'm going to London in June to go see Taylor Swift as part of my adventure, right? It is a reward for doing really well, right? But it is something that super excites me, evokes that emotion of thriving that I can throw in here that will help me like pinpoint why I'm doing this, okay? Does that make sense? Okay, thank you for sharing. All right, so now we're gonna set some goals. This is like where we get some clarity, right, on all this emotional work. Okay? And a goal, guys, we gotta set plans. Okay? So for me, goals and plans are kind of synonymous. I know that if I say I'm going to do something, it has to be very specific, right? I'm going to save X number of dollars by. Okay? It has to be measurable, which means that there has to be a quantifiable amount or number associated with it. It has to be actually achievable for where I'm at today. relevant to, again, what I want most in life, right? So what we want most in life comes down to that one word, right? So he wants to feel delighted. He wants to feel happy. Like that just for me, like when he says it, it just like feels light, right? He doesn't want to feel like a burden, right? So, and that will everything you do will always go back to the things you want most, period, the end, whether you know it or not. Okay? And then it also has to be time bound. So I want us to be really focusing on things that we can do in this first 12 weeks, so at the end of first quarter, right? And then that theme will continue on because we're going to build upon it, and you guys are going to set new goals at the beginning of second quarter. Does that make sense? Okay, so this is the framework for setting the goals. On the next page, I want you guys to write down 2 goals for each category, but it's an absolute must for your lowest 2. Those are the 2 most important on this goal list. Okay?
Sorry.
That's okay. I was like, what is that? Is that a text message?
Huh?
Is that a text message?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. Is there a chance we can silence that?
I just did. Yeah. Stopped it midway.
Did anyone struggle? Where did you struggle?
Well, I feel like, like for money, like the easy answer, you just pay towards the debts with the highest interest rate. Like it's easy, but it's also not. So what I had to get clear on was like staying frugal with my spending, continue looking for ways to save, but taking money out of each transaction and putting it towards a certain debt, like be super specific about it. Because it's
So here, what was your word?
money.
Okay. So your one word is money.
Oh, no, my word or what I was working on.
What's your word? And I'm going to take it back to the goal.
My word is, well, I was between a couple of them.
Okay.
Blossom and equanimity, like balance.
Okay.
Expansion and balance. So I'm just trying to figure out between the two of those.
So sometimes, guys, I put my themes into ChatGPT and then it gives you a list of words. That's actually how I came up with mine at first, just because I was so hard bent on that. Here's what I will say, is that like a SMART goal should be like, I'm gonna, from every single paycheck, I'm gonna put 20% of whatever the balance is and I'm gonna throw it at all of my debt. So that's actually my approach to debt, just so you know, is I just take whatever 20% is, I divide it by all of my debts, and I add a principal reduction payment equivalent to whatever that is. Because for me, what makes me feel the most accomplished is if I tackle a little bit of everything, right? So that's within my like belief system, is that I feel better when I feel like I've covered more ground. Okay? I can tell that right now it's a struggle, right, to concentrate on one debt when you feel like the money could be used for something else. So it's just where does that come from, right? Because again, like when you have a trigger point, we have to then go, okay, what is the real trigger here, right? So it is the trigger like you want to use the money for something else, or we're worried that we don't have enough reserves in case something else happens. Like, what's the resistance?
That I should be putting it in other places like college, for next year's college versus this year's debt.
Okay. So whenever I feel like I have competing goals like that, so I break my budget up differently. So like first step is, can you get a budget where you can live off of 60% of the net take home income? So that's like number one. So if there is a possibility to live off of less money, so that's where we start building bandwidth up in our budgets. And then from that, we can go, okay, I need to put 10% aside for a rainy day fund, right? For just emergencies, extra things that come up. I'm gonna use 20% for debt reduction. I'm gonna apply another 10% to, additional college fund or whatever that budget is, right? And then that's what it's gonna be every single month. And I know that I have a budget that's conducive to that. And then I'm going to revisit that budget on the 15th and the 30th of every month to make sure that I'm on track. Does that make sense? Okay, so money is also on mine, and that is my specific plan, right? So it's, hey, how can I live off of less, right? So areas that I was overdoing it, like I went through, and I promise you right now, almost every single person in this room has reoccurring subscriptions that they are unaware of that add up to $200, okay? The national average is 176. I'm pretty sure you have them. Okay, so an easy way to save up some space right now is just to cancel all the subscriptions. I took all of my grocery shopping to Instacart, and Instacart's a little bit of a premium, but it allows me to meal prep, and then I'm not walking down the aisles putting in stupid shit into my car. Okay? But so these were like easy ways. Then being accountable on the 15th and the 30th made sure that if I was over, I could stop. Like I'm very aware. And then I also stopped using my credit card and started using my debit card for everything, because a credit card, like you don't have a limit because it's going up. You don't spend the same way that you do when it's a debit system, when it's maxing. Okay? So like for me, like one of the ways that money makes me feel is trapped. Anyone feel that way? Like trapped, it's never enough, it gives me stress, anxiety, all the things. Yes, anyone relate?
Yes.
Okay, so like things that make you feel trapped, what's the positive opposite of that?
Freedom.
Free, right? Free also like has what kind of sentiments behind it? Like happy, joy, abundant,
At ease.
enough, right? At ease, right? And so that's how we come up with words that mean it, right? So hey, I want to be free. Like I feel like that might be a good word for you. right? Because then it means I'm not in debt, I'm not trapped, I'm not tied down.
She wants free clothes.
Yeah.
But like, can I tell you this? So like, the second I started saying money loves me, money always finds me, I started finding random money everywhere. Like everywhere. So if she says, you know what, I want free, you know, whatever it is, she can go and find it, and like, she might get a gift. Right? Someone might inherit something, or hey, you know what, I bought this, it didn't fit me, would you like it? Right? You'd be surprised how that manifests, right, when our beliefs are positive. So, I'm gonna have you do something or pay attention to something. Your bodies always work and they always tell the truth. Our minds are just thoughts, okay? So it's not the truth, it's just what we're paying attention to in the moment. So how you know if you are really in sync with your goals is if you set it out loud. If you believe in that goal, you will lean forward. It's called the sway test. And if you do not believe in the goal, you move backwards. That's how you can always tell if someone's not being honest with you, right? This is a really good sales tactic too. So when you're meeting with a client and you ask them how they feel about it, they're like, well, they don't like it. Okay. If they're like, oh my gosh, what can we do? Right? Do you see? It's subtle, but they move forward. So backwards, no. Forward, yes. Make sense? Now I want you to read your goals and pay attention to the direction that you're moving. You won't even, like literally, I just moved forward right now and I just felt it. Like you just do it naturally. Your body is in sync with what you want. You just have to pay attention. Okay? Any goal that does not sync up with you or gives you any kind of hesitation, I want you to stop. I want you to reflect on it, and I want you to tie it back to your word. Okay? We got really specific on that money goal.
On the fun category, I feel like that kind of bleeds over, and for me at least, into like my family and friends and like personal development. And so I just was curious, like in the terms of how it's laid out here, how do you see the definition of that category?
That's really great. So oftentimes as caretakers and as people that are busy, like you have a spouse, you have a son, you have a very busy career, oftentimes we confuse our own personal care and enjoyment with activities like date night. Like we might have fun on date night, but like we compromise on the thing that we want to do because it involves another person. Or like I have fun with my kids, but I don't want to watch Matilda, you know? I'm watching Matilda because that's what my kids want to do and I enjoy spending time with them. And so it's like, what do you as a human by yourself want to do for fun? And if you can't answer that question, like I would like you to look up the term codependent because it's a real, like if you're any good at this business at all, you probably have some codependency in you, which makes us really good. All of our gifts are also double-edged swords, okay? But if your happiness is attached to the actions and thoughts or willingness of another human being, it's not actually yours. So like things that I do for fun, truthfully, is I go and have breakfast outside on Sunday mornings and then go to church when my kids aren't home. It's like my favorite thing to do. I can't really do it when my kids are there because they want to you know, have breakfast with me outside and talk. But it's like silence, outdoors, the sunlight, by myself. Like sparks a lot of joy for me. But like going to Taylor Swift, just so you know, I have 2 tickets to Taylor Swift. I don't know who's coming with me yet. I'm going though. Right? That is 100% decision I made on my own, and then I will figure out who's coming with me.
Is it okay that you don't focus, well, I felt like I stepped back on just one area. Like, I really don't care about that one area right now.
Okay, which area?
Family and friends.
No.
Love is different, right? Love for me is different because that's where I take care of my immediate husband and my kids, but family and friends, there's been bridges that have been broken and I'm learning boundaries, so.
Okay, so let me tell you this. This actually happens. Can I just tell you how awesome it is that you shared that vulnerable, that's a very vulnerable thing to say in a group of people. But how many of you guys have felt burnt by relationships in the past? Okay, there was a girl in the session yesterday who was like, I just need to to grow up and stop hanging out when girls are nice or something like that. It was like all women are awful at this age. And we've experienced relationships that make us believe something, but nothing is an absolute, right? And so when one area is imbalanced, okay, it actually impacts a variety of areas. So like you are a real estate agent, a lot of the business that we get are for people that know, like, and trust us, right? Having friends would be beneficial to your business, would be beneficial to the experience that you have in business, right? Like if your husband goes on a business trip or wants to take time off, your kids are older, like having something to do would actually make a difference to your overall life experience. But when we're burned, it feels awful, okay? So I would encourage you not to just leave one of the spots on your thing to be less, but maybe what's one area, one friendship, or one thing that you can do to cultivate new relationships. Okay, so when I got divorced, guys, I am an overachiever. I have literally had like straight A's, president of my class. Like, I mean, everyone would have said Lizy wins, like Lizy achieves, everyone likes her, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm getting divorced. It was like the biggest F on my life report card that I could ever have gotten. I literally was white knuckling my marriage, but I was gonna stay married, right? That's how committed I am to things. Okay, so I felt like a gigantic failure, and I felt like it was broadcast everywhere, even though no one cared. Okay, but this is how I felt. And then I decided I couldn't talk to anyone. So for 4 months, I didn't talk to a soul. I forwarded my phone, and one of my closest friends did all my social media, so that's why it looked like I was still alive. And I didn't talk to anyone. I barely even talked to her. She would come to my house, record 12 videos, and I'm like, you gotta leave. Like, I can't talk to anyone. And my belief system was I was so humiliated and ashamed. And then I decided that I was just gonna make all new friends, because that's how I am. I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna make all new friends. And I made a couple of divorced friends. And then I realized how awesome my friends were. And then I started letting people back in, and my whole life is so much better, right? It's like, you can't let everyone in, and we gotta acknowledge where we've been burnt and hurt, and then you really do have to find where in your life the opposite is true. Okay? If you ever have absolute thoughts on anything, it's false. Okay? Like, attachments, good or bad, are harmful, right? So like if you're really attached to the best day ever in your whole life, everything else has to live up to that. Okay, you don't allow new energy to come through. If everything's the worst, you just have blinders on. Okay, so we say, hey, that was great, what's next? Hey, that's great, what's next? And it's not like we're not grateful and appreciative, we just know that the future isn't defined yet, we get to decide it and choose it. Okay, and so if you have an absolute thought, no, it's false. It just automatically, for the sake of time, it's just wrong. All right. Now, I want you in one sentence to write down what it would mean to you if you were to actually live this life and hit these goals. Like, what does it mean for you? And like, why is this important? So like, my word is thriving. Okay, for me, thriving means I'm winning in all areas of my life. I'm healthy, I'm making money, I'm having fun, I'm spending time with my kids, I'm in a great relationship, I'm just living life to fullest. And it's important to me because, one, I want that for myself, right? I want to have a great, fulfilled life. And I want my kids to see what that looks like. You know, I don't want them to think like I had one kid who was like, I never want a job. Like, that's what I made working look like. You know, I never want a job. Like, what kind of adult are they going to grow into, right? It's like, I want my kids to see that you can live a very balanced, happy life. That would mean a lot to me. And then once you write it, I want you guys to acknowledge where you're gonna see some challenges, okay? So the kids that I love so much create so many challenges in accomplishing my goals, okay? And then again, because this is that second area of resistance that we have, like we create the great vision, and then nobody tends to see like why it isn't coming, okay? So like, I'm so sorry, what's your name, honey?
Tiffany.
Tiffany. So Tiffany can write a list down. She has goals, she has vision, but there is challenges, there are roadblocks that get in her way, right? So what are they? And I am going to pick on you, so we can go.
Yeah.
Kids.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So write down the thing. Let's write down like what specifically with kids. And I'm going to show you how to create bandwidth and boundaries. Okay, Tiffany. Alright, so what did we write down as what it would mean to you? And what's your word? And then why does it mean to you?
So what it would mean to me, if I'm able to do this, is that?
Honestly, it's supposed to be emotional. Like if it doesn't mean something to you for real, you did it wrong. So you're doing great.
Okay. I would feel balanced because part of my issue is what gets in my way is my mom guilt. I work full time, and when I get home, I feel like I need to be 100% with my kids, and if I'm not, I'm failing. And so it gets in the way of things that I need to do for myself that aren't work and aren't really better for me, better for my goals. And so I just feel like I would be balanced, and I put the word unstoppable. But yeah, but that's it.
So that is heavy. Everyone felt that? Okay. So I felt mom guilt so bad my hair fell out. I gained 50 pounds and I started getting rashes all over my body. Felt so bad for working so much and giving them so little, right? So it can take a crazy emotional toll. And so a couple things that you have to acknowledge is like, what's the worst case scenario for like if you took an hour or two, right? Every day. And I'm talking about an hour or two every day. What's the worst case scenario to your kids?
I just spend more time watching TV.
Okay, and then what happens if they spend more time watching TV?
They'll like me more, to be honest.
But what's it? The TV's raising them, they watch bad
Yeah.
programming, they learn bad words, they become a hoodlum.
They do something wrong and I blame it on myself because I didn't do it. Yeah.
Okay, right? So your worst case scenario is they watch more TV.
Yeah.
Okay? Alright. Actually write that down. I want you to say worst case scenario is they watch more TV. Is there an activity that they could do in replacement of TV
Oh, yeah.
that you could schedule?
Yeah.
What could that be?
Playtime with friends.
Okay. So how old are your kids?
I've got an 8-year-old and then I've got a 2.5-year-old and twins that just turned 8-year-old.
Okay, so that's a really young set of.
Busy
Yeah.
schedule.
So here's something that I've had to do with young kids. So my kids are slightly older than you, but I've had to do this single mom thing for 2.5 years. So what I ended up doing is making mom friends that had kids of my same age that would be willing to watch them while I got some time, and then I exchanged. Okay? Or a mom friend that I wanted to be friends with, that we could take them to things like the trampoline park or the actual park, and then she and I could just get some girl time in. you know? And like, so that was number one. Then number two is I have like mandatory art time. And like in mandatory art time, you can't do anything other than play art, and you can come and show me what you like, but basically we're gonna do a big presentation at the end of it, right? So you're gonna wanna save it for then, so that I could get some like total quiet time. The other thing is when I was married, one of the things that my co-parent did do well is that I would wake him up in the morning. So from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. were his times. And it didn't matter what was happening with any of the kids. Like they could be screaming bloody murder. He had to take care of it. I was gonna lock the door and go to bed. And then the same thing, I got 2 hours at night. And then those were how I set boundaries. Because we will feel responsible for everything. And if you don't have the boundaries, you aren't quite the mom you think you are. You know? Like my kids were getting me exhausted, tired, frustrated, and then I would get like angry and snap, and then I'd be like, I'm so sorry. You know? And so that's how I like put boundaries in place. Okay? So there are things, so some of it involves communicating and asking for help. Okay? Which is hard. Okay? But you can do it. Like if somebody asked you for help, I imagine you would say yes. Okay? Here's the consequence for real of not doing it. Is that your kids grow up and never want to have kids because it looks so stressful. Or that they think that they have to do it all and they find a partner that doesn't help them. Or they don't have a strong relationship with their mom because she's always frustrated. Okay, those are the real life consequences of our belief systems. They all have good and bad consequences. The reason I'm asking you to reflect on that is because right now the belief system is that you're the only one that can do it. Okay? So we have to sometimes let go of expectations. The reason I asked you for your worst case scenario is because if the worst case scenario is, like I got endless ABCs, endless numbers, so that my 1.5, 2-year-olds, they just learning their ABCs. Like that's my worst case scenario is that they learn ABCs and they learn numbers on an iPad. Okay? The worst case scenario is I've got a lot of art. You know, I do have a lot of art and they won't let you throw it away. Okay? Like the worst case scenario is that like sometimes I'm like, hey guys, it's quiet time, we're gonna be on the hammock. If you want to spend time with mom, it's on the hammock quietly. Like that's their worst case scenario. And they're like, yeah, my mom's so weird, she wants to be on the hammock right now. Fine, worst case scenario, okay? So you gotta challenge these thoughts. But like, wouldn't it be cool if you could show them that you can be a kick-ass mom, have business and goals, and love them to death? Like, wouldn't that be awesome? Mm-hmm. And so when you're showing up and kicking ass and doing work, like, it would be like almost more guilty to not show them that. Right? Like, did you see how I just painted a different picture that you can feel and breathe and live and embody and do all this stuff too?
Yeah.
Like, how many of you guys have ever had a vision board and you just pasted a bunch of pretty pictures you saw in a magazine? Right? Meant absolutely nothing to you. You looked at it and you're like, wouldn't it be nice? Right? It meant nothing to you, right? But couldn't you do a vision board based on this? Right? I pasted mine on my bathroom with this is when everything works out, with all the pictures that spark joy, that make me think of thriving. Like I have Khloe Kardashian abs on there because that's thriving to me. She's got a big butt and abs. I'm like, that's me. Right? Like this is what you gotta envision. This is what you gotta picture. Okay? Here's the thing. You want this to be what people say about you when you leave the room. Okay? Why it matters so much in business is because when you are imbalanced, you think you're only short-tempered with your kids, you're actually short-tempered with your clients. You're actually short-tempered with your referral partners, with your network of people that sends you business. Like none of my really good friends would ever do their home loans with me, and I'd be like, what? Why aren't you guys doing your home loans with me? Like, this hurts my feelings. I felt so, frustrated, and I felt betrayed, and I was like, you people suck. You're not my friends. And then one of my girlfriends said, you hate your job, and the last thing I'm going to do is ask you to do something you hate. We're friends. Ooh. And then I thought, I'm like, oh my God, every time I talk to them, I'm going, I'm so frustrated. I'm so overworked. Like, oh, this person's calling me for a brick wall. Of course no one wants to do business, and this is how we talk to our friends and family because we feel it's safe. Okay? Like, now I'm like, oh my God, I'm so grateful. Oh, sorry guys, I really gotta take this. I'm so lucky I get this client right now. Okay? I actually do feel that way, but it took a lot to really feel that way, you know? And you can't be overworked and be grateful at the same time. Okay? So, I want to show you how you incorporate this into your actual life, right? So every single one of those goals should have a place on your calendar. If it doesn't live on your calendar, let me tell you, it's not getting done. Okay? When you create a list, every single time you create a list, I want you to do it. Does it have to be done? Okay? Can it be delegated? Can it ask for help? Okay? Like, and if it doesn't have to be done or cannot be delegated, only you, does it have to be done today? Like, and then put it in the schedule. Like, I have lots of things, they don't get done every day. And you have to say, okay, great, I can get back to you on Wednesday. Like, I got, I don't know, 42 text messages about volunteering for something, and I'm like, hi, I'll get you in April. That's my earliest availability. I didn't feel bad. April was on the list, right? They shouldn't have put it on the list if they didn't want me to do April. You know? So I don't feel bad. You can't do everything. All right, so I want to show you what a calendar looks like when you have literally encompassed everything. And I will send you a copy of this because I know you can't really see it, but you should see at a glance. Lots of colors, right? It's lots of colors because every part of my life is color-coded on my calendar so that I can see if I'm hitting the right goals or not. Money for me was my number one priority, and work was the number one priority, so that color is green. You can see it takes up a lot of my calendar. Okay? Purple is all of the times with my kids and includes taking dinner, picking them up from school, what weekend times are purple, what activities I'm doing with them. Right? Yellow is me. Blue is for planning. Okay? Planning has to be on your calendar, otherwise you can't get anything done. I will tell you that the number one mistake that business people make is that they do not set up time for planning and reviewing anything. So I told her to review her money budget 15th and 30th, right? Because that's how she'll know she'll never pay anything late and if she's on track or not. I review my business metrics once a week. I review my health goals once a week. I plan out all of the kid activities well in advance, okay? And I review them once a week to make sure that I'm prepped. Every Sunday night between 6 and 8, I'm preparing for the week ahead. I pick out all of my, literally pick out all of my outfits. I pick out all except for the pant choice today. I did not realize I was not going to be able to fit into those. But most of the time, I know exactly what I'm wearing. I know exactly what I'm eating. I know exactly all of the appointments are confirmed. I mean, I'm so on schedule. Now, anyone in this room feel triggered by a calendar that looks like that? Okay? Do you feel like it's restricted?
Yeah.
Okay, do you feel like you're losing freedom?
Yeah.
Okay, that's called a trigger. Okay, really, really important that you fit this, right? So normal triggers that come up is, I don't want to be that tied down. I don't think I can do that. That seems overwhelming. These are all of the things that come up when people see my calendar, okay? The thing is, when something is important to you, you make time for it, right? Like if it's really important to you, you make time for it. So let's say you don't have a plan, you're not on schedule. What's the consequence of that?
Something falls by the wayside.
Okay, you forget things. Okay, something falls by the wayside. Other people's priorities become your priorities.
Yeah.
Okay, who's ever run life without a schedule? Okay, does it feel free? After a while, does it feel like chaos? Does it feel like you're drifting?
It's inconsistent.
Inconsistent? Okay, so in life we get three choices. We can be directed, we can be driven, right, which is a lot of what happens to business people. We get really, really, really driven, and then we get burnt out, tired, we have a failure, and then we go to drifting. And then you ride the drifting to driven roller coaster forever. Okay? Or you can be directed, which is more boring. There's no predictability. I had a guy yesterday say, well, where's spontaneity? And I said, well, spontaneity comes into place when somebody cancels on my calendar, and I get to go, woo! What do I get to do now? So-and-so just canceled for lunch, so-and-so canceled for coffee. What do I get to do for that hour? That's as spontaneous as my life becomes. But it's okay because adventure was important to me and I planned for that. I planned for the exciting things in my life that make me feel free, that make me feel like I'm doing the things I want to do. Okay? So whenever you have a trigger, I don't want you to not acknowledge them. I want you to sit with it and really discover what it means. And then what's the positive opposite of that, and what are the consequences to not following through? Okay, the consequences to not following through on whatever you want in life is you rob yourself of your boundaries, you rob yourself of your dreams, you rob yourself of all the success and potential that you have. Like my deepest belief in life is that God all gave us gifts and that we are here to live up to our highest potential. Period, the end. Like the greatest gift that we have to the universe, to God, to whoever you believe in, is that we show up and be our best. Okay? And so because that is a personal philosophy of mine, I feel like it's a slap in the face not to do it. That's my biggest ultimate consequence. Right? My deepest life belief is that. And if I uphold it, it trickles into everything else. I'll be healthy, I'll be happy, my kids will be fulfilled, everything else works out. Okay. Did any of you get an aha from today? Yes? Any aha moments from today? Okay. Well, this is intended to be a 12-week goal course. Okay? If you have any additional questions or want to go deeper on a one-on-one with me, you can. I have all of your information in the sign-up sheet. Kristen, if you can wait real quick, is my assistant. She will get you booked. Well, please remember, I am not a public speaker. I teach these things so you guys can be better business people in hopes that it'll help grow my business too. Okay, so please remember me for your next loan, and I'm here to talk about any of the takeaways, but we are at time. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.